This is a wake-up call for Republicans.
From San Francisco.
America elected Joe Biden by
Oh
over 7
man, we're
million
playing
votes.
around with the lighting here.
You're
This
confused
looks very,
because you
very
didn't
dark
see
to
us
me.
flock to his rallies and cheer his smackdowns.
Hey, can you
like we
put
were at a pro wrestling
the
event during a global
screen
pandemic.
back up again, Mario? I'm going to go and fix the lighting. Just turn it up a bit. Can you go back to the live video, to the video or intro? Great, thanks. I think that's better now. I mean, I'm still not thrilled with the lighting. And is the top of my head cut off, or? You can respond more. Oh, there it is. Okay, that's better. Yeah. All right, everybody. Hey, happy MLK Day. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for your patience while we're working out the details here and the technology. Hope you're enjoying your day. I'm going to try and keep this one brief today. Got a full schedule of activities, and but I wanted to keep our schedule here. So just so you know, we are doing these Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific time, whether it's daylight or standard. We stay with we go with the time change, and we keep this down between 20 and 30 minutes, depending on the topics for the day. And eventually we'll talk a little bit about the congressional race, running against Nancy Pelosi. Still working on that, working on some final touches on that. Still talking to the exploratory committee and seeing whether or not we can actually make this a go, make a real run of it. So stand by. Did want to talk a little bit. There's a bunch of stuff that is going on this weekend that had my attention, and wanted to just put it out there to you all. Just bear with me a second. I want to monitor your comments on Periscope. And I got an email. I get requests frequently from the media to talk about the Republican point of view here in San Francisco, because there aren't that many of them. Actually, I was talking to Cheryl Atkinson the other day about that. But in any event, I got an email from a reporter on Friday night, and she wanted to really talk about, she's kind of a newish reporter, big newspaper here in town. And she was talking about, where does the GOP go from here? That's what everybody wants to know. Where are we going post-Trump? There's division in the party. 10 Republicans voted to impeach him in the House. They got Liz Cheney. What do you do with her? So we covered a bunch of those issues, and then, whatever she puts in the newspaper. As I've mentioned before, I don't think that the print media is terribly fair in terms of accurately describing what it is that you say in the context that you put it in. But okay, fine. But when I hung up the phone, she was really looking for something from me, and something I really couldn't give her, because I didn't really think that was, she wanted to hear that there's this big fight going on, and there's these ideological battles. And the truth is, like in San Francisco, we just want to find voters. We're looking to get people to register to join us. We don't have big internal squabbles in terms of, what's happening with Washington, who supports whom. And Donald Trump is very popular with the San Francisco Republicans, I can tell you that. Not universally. There are some people who don't like him, but mostly popular. But I had to hang up the phone and call her back because something was really on my mind, and I just was like, if you really want to know, I said to her, what Republicans are thinking about, what we're talking about right now, we're not so worried about the future of the party, because politics is an ebb and flow, right? I mean, things looked so bad in 2008. Obama won. They won. Pelosi became Speaker. They won the House. They had the Senate. It was a nightmare. They passed Obamacare. 2 years later, the Republicans took back the House, took back 63 seats. It's the record for the biggest swing in history in terms of the House. So I'm not so worried about that. But what I am concerned about are the things that are, say, drastically different from 10 years ago. And I'm really concerned about this great deplatforming. And for those of you who've been following it, I'm sure most of you have, so many people have been booted off of social media. Not particularly provocative people. I mean, maybe, I suppose everybody, if you have a following, you're kind of provocative, but certainly not like, encouraging violence or, things that could harm people. Just, just standing up and, and maybe taking some swipes at folks. But, people don't deserve to get people who didn't deserve to get wiped off of Twitter, wiped off of Facebook. And even my own, I just had to tell her, I mean, look, you can see this on, websites that tracks Twitter statistics. I've lost 30% of my followers. And it's, by the way, it's funny because it's stabilized. It stopped at a certain number. And now it went down a little bit, but not like it was dropping in droves. I mean, in one 3.5 hour period, I lost 3,000 followers. That's a lot. And I felt like I was being shadow banned as it was anyway. So in any event, why aren't we talking about that? Why is no one writing about that? And, she's sort of a newish reporter. She had the desk on she had to be there till 9:30 on Friday night. And I said, hey, can you maybe look into this? Because that's a story that really needs to be told. What's going on here? And here's the killer. The killer part is that Jack Dorsey admitted in that long tweet that he put out the other day that it was the Democrats who coordinated with the tech companies to block Parler and to decide, who gets to stay on Twitter and who gets wiped out and whose followers get targeted. I mean, that's not a story where this huge, massive platform for communication is being controlled by elected Democrats, and they're targeting their opponents and getting them wiped out so that they can't communicate with one another. This isn't a story. Now, listen, maybe this report is sort of newish in San Francisco, and it's a bit above that person's ability at this time. It's too big of a story, but Jesus Christ, somebody's got to write that story. What is going on here? I think back 10 years ago, and I think about I think I've told this story before. How I was on CNN with Don Lemon on a Sunday afternoon. And Don and I had a nice conversation. In fact, he was very complimentary, and he said that was really, I want to stop right there, what you're saying about the left and right spectrum. It's not all that useful, and blah, blah, blah. And we had a nice conversation. I couldn't have that conversation with Don Lemon today. I mean, all of CNN has moved in an entirely different direction. 10 years ago, I could go on Fox News with almost any reporter and get at least a fair, if not sympathetic, hearing. Fox News is a disaster now. Think about how much that's changed. Let's go past the cable news networks. Let's go to social media. Social media 10 years ago, they were dying to have new people on. They would never think of really, banning people. The banning thing only started a couple of years ago. And it seems exclusively directed at folks on the right. I don't hear anybody on the left saying, oh my God, I can't believe that they banned that person. Because the folks on the left who come in and come at me, they say the most vicious stuff. Vile stuff, and they don't seem to be getting banned. I mean, I've had to report a couple of people and kind of calm them down, but because of the violence. But I mean, there are things people say on large accounts that's just crazy stuff, and and here's the thing about it. This great deplatforming that's happening, it is so unnecessary when you think about it. I've said this before, but let's call it this. How could Twitter control this? Twitter enjoys the protection of Section 230, which means that they are not liable for what's published on their website, on their platform. On the other hand, there's no liability for them when they kick people off for editing the content on their platform. If they weren't interested in the control, it's so easily solvable. People have said you could choose your own algorithm. Now, people don't want to hear about algorithms. Here's what you do. You could, when you go into Twitter, you could be presented with, say, 3 doors. One is the G for gentle, and the other door, and I'm making this up off the top of my head, could be F for free speech, and the third door could be some M for middle of the road. And you just choose your door. It takes 2 seconds. You come in, you open Twitter, where am I going today? Boom, go. That's it. And if you go into F for freedom, you know that people could be talking about the sickest shit that's out there, the craziest stuff. But, and they could say all kinds of stuff, but you went into that door. And you can leave that door and go into G, or you can go to M and go where where you feel most comfortable. They could do that in a heartbeat and not have to throw anybody off. And then say, hey, listen, within each of these doors, it's the community standards that matter. If the community says this is acceptable or it isn't, then we'll respond. But we're not going to be the editors of it. We're going to leave it up to the communities within each of these doors. Do that in a small sample set and see how it works. I think it'll work great. But notice they don't try that. They won't try that because they like having the power. They like being able to have their cake and eat it too. A situation, by the way, that doesn't typically go on for go very well for very long. So anyway, I think that that's kind of the big issue right now. You have all kinds of crazy stuff going on here. You've got troops having loyalty tests because they're saying supposedly they are concerned that these people are going to shoot at Biden during the inauguration because they're Trump supporters. I don't know. Every dictatorship that ever been established has created some sort of a guard. The Republican Guard in Iraq, the Praetorian Guard in Rome. These guards that are loyal not to the Constitution, not to the people, but to whoever is in charge. And if you can't see that that's a first step towards an abuse of power, I don't even know what to think. What are they asking these guys? I haven't heard that yet, and I'll be curious to find out what's actually being asked of these National Guard people. Are they going to say, do you plan on shooting the president-elect? Do you support him? And what are the questions? It's an unimaginable violation of their rights to ask those questions, and a big step towards a bad situation. So there are just things happening right now. All of this conversation came up. Listen, I've been talking about it, but much of it got triggered by this sort of innocuous questions from a Friday night reporter. That's how it started. And it seems interesting that that we're talking about these sort of, where does the Republican Party go, where the big question is, where's the country going right now? We're the defenders of free speech. We got the ACLU, which used to be good up until about 10 or 15 years ago in terms of protecting free speech. Now they've kind of, I suppose they're circling back. They've delivered, kind of a milquetoast, response to these losses of freedom of speech and these erosion of rights. But it's not good, not a good situation. I suppose I'll take this opportunity to jump over to MLK real briefly. Is this what what we've got right now is in terms of the whole, as MLK here talking in front of a crowd of people. Think about that, those speeches that he gave back then. Did he really want where we are right now? Did he want us to just sort of live in harmony, or did he want people to take an aggressive posture against a boogeyman? Is this what he intended? Because right now, if you it's said that if you're not anti-racist, then you're a racist. And I don't even like talking about this topic of race, but it just comes up, and this whole business about being anti-racist or you're racist, that's sort of their mantra, by the way. Either you're out there attacking people, calling other people racist, irrespective of your skin color, or you're with the racists. Think about that. Either join the cult or we're going to go after you. Those are the options for those people. You can't talk about what you've done in your life and who you spent your time with and all that. None of that matters. If you're not out there actively calling other people racist, then you're not in the cult, and we're going to come get you. That's where we're at right now. I hate this, and what's crazy is that the propaganda is working. In a 24-hour period, late last week, I had 3 friends, 3 white men, all 50 or older, all of whom don't like Trump, okay, and all of whom were sort of buying into this problem that there's this kind of white supremacy thing going on. And look, I mean, if I saw the white supremacy thing happening, if I thought that was a big issue, I'd be right out there in the middle of the fight, pushing back against them. But the truth is that that kind of thinking is really fringy. And, I'm part of some other national Republican organizations, and every once in a while you get one of those knuckleheads trying to come in and infiltrate, we boot them out. No one has an appetite for any of that stuff. But I also don't see, again, another boogeyman. I don't see them as a huge threat. They're kind of a fringe element, really way out there fringe. But what's interesting is that these three guys, smart, successful guys, were all in on it. They were like, yeah, this white supremacy problem is a big thing. And I tell you, that's really scary to me too, because it tells me that the propaganda is working. Which brings me to the next topic, which is this clear-cut Psyop video. I want you to put that up real quick. Somebody gave me a hard time for addressing this last night, saying this is nonsense. Meanwhile, this video that's out on Twitter has got last I looked, over 6 million views, 6.3 or something like that. 6.3 million views. This is not nothing. This is some actor
no more malarkey flags
talking about, why Trump people have to be deprogrammed. And so I'm sort of sitting there watching, am I missing something? Maybe this guy's got a point. Maybe I'm not seeing this. But then you see he starts jumping into all the violence that's being committed by white supremacists. And I'm like, wait a second. Those weren't white supremacists. This is a gaslight operation here, because there were no white supremacists out there burning down cities all summer long. They weren't rioting in Minneapolis and Seattle and Portland and Atlanta and all these places. Those weren't white supremacists. Those were BLM and Antifa people out there doing that. And that's when I knew that. And then it just continues. I mean, it's a really slickly produced piece and effective, and basically, by the way, a ripoff of the Brandon Straka walkaway movement. By the way, another thing, Brandon Straka's walkaway movement, which was his Facebook page, which had 500,000 followers, was just basically testimonials of people saying, "Hey, this is what opened my eyes to the propaganda, the nonsense that was being delivered to me by the mainstream media and the Democrats." They took that page down. Not associated or affiliated in any way with what happened at the Capitol or anything else, just testimonials of people's own personal experiences, why they walked away from the Democrat Party, took it down. And then mirrored his initial video, Brandon's initial video on that one there. And what's funny too is that, Biden didn't even mention anything about the riots until August 31st. All summer, and by the way, not with much enthusiasm, but August 31st, after this, a hot summer, of burning cities, finally comes out and he says, "I deplore, the violence," because the polling showed that the people weren't liking it, and so he came out and said something. But he kind of did it in kind of a lukewarm way. I mean, he could have come out and said, grab Pelosi, grab Schumer, grabbed Bernie and Warren and AOC and said, "Hey, we all denounce this violence. Stop it. You don't speak on our behalf. We understand that you may have some concerns, but this is not the way to do it." And he just came out and gave sort of like a kind of a speech about it, just so he could go on the record as being against it. This video doesn't mention any of that stuff. It doesn't mention any of the videos that we saw all summer where people are tearing apart cities. So anyway, there's a lot of this really heavy-duty Psyop stuff going on there. I'd love to know who produced that video. There's no signature to it. There's no, say paid by or anything like that. And there, I'd love to see who did it, because that's really clear propaganda. Never seen anything like that, and really expensively produced. I mean, even though it's just a video, I mean, they clearly hired an actor for it, and it was very targeted and very particularly written. Watch that video and see if you don't walk away going, "Wow, this is getting crazy." I mean, on CNN the other day, professor from Stanford, guy used to be in charge, have a high-level position at Facebook, was talking about having to treat people on the right like they treated ISIS and Al Qaeda, talking about, okay, One American News and Newsmax, they can, have a platform, but there's no reason why AT&T and Verizon and Xfinity, Comcast should be promoting those channels, and they shouldn't be coming into people's homes. By the way, saying this on a competitor's news, platform, on a competitor's channel on CNN. What if OAN went on and said, "Hey, Xfinity, you should really drop CNN because they push the Fine People hoax, the most egregious hoax we've seen in the last couple of years." What if they went on and said, "Hey, you should, Direct TV, you should drop CNN because they push the Covington kids hoax"? Nobody's saying anything about that. So really tricky time, I got to tell you. It's really chilling. And the other chilling thing, it was going back to the Friday Night Reporter conversation, one of the things that I said to her is that people are like now, what are they doing? They're looking at their P's and Q's and saying, am I going to be deplatformed next? Am I next? And so, really tricky time. And meanwhile, you have Nancy Pelosi saying nothing about any of this stuff. Not a word. She doesn't care. She's never fought for free speech, never understood it, doesn't care about it. What she cares about is power. And if this power, if these changes inure to her power, she'll jump right on. She'll ride with that wave as long as she can. Because she doesn't care about anything. She doesn't care about ideas or principles that allow us to all live together peacefully. She just cares about power. And if she has to suppress you by many different means, she'll do it in a second. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at right now today. I mean, I have to tell you, this is a really interesting time. I'm optimistic only in the sense that 70 plus 5 million people voted for Donald Trump. Enough people understand it. I don't think that they can subjugate the entire country, or at least half the country. I can't believe that there are people who are going along with this. People who are so principleless that they think it's okay to suppress people with whom they disagree. But I am optimistic about the fact that we've got so many good people out there like you who get it, who get why we have to defend even the people who we don't like and whose speech we disagree with. That we've got to defend their right to say it, because if not, then the creeps and the thugs in government come in, and then they control the agenda, and then we're all screwed. So I'm grateful that we have so many people out there who get it, and I think American people are generally good people, and they'll not put up with this for a very long time. So anyway, let's keep it positive here. I know it's been a heavy kind of a topic today, and I've covered a lot of ground. I will, come back and see you tomorrow and have a whole new, fresh agenda to discuss, and hopefully an announcement. Got to have all these things fall into place before you make the announcement. So we'll see about that. I see a couple of comments here. Thank you all for joining. Appreciate it. And I will see you tomorrow.